Hello, fellow humans. Do sycophants exist because it is human nature to attempt to gain advantage by flattering influential people? Are sycophants the result of how society is structured? What do all sycophants want? What are their hidden motives? I speak truth to power. I am a fierce defender of democracy and an advocate for well-being for all humans. The algorithms don't like this very much. Please click the subscribe button, help me get to 10,000 subscribers. Help voices like mine get a wider audience so we can take the power away from the elites and give it back to the people. Cousin Greg and Tom Wambsgans in the HBO series Succession ingratiate themselves to the media tycoon Logan Roy to gain and maintain access to the wealth and power of the ruling class. Waylon Smithers in The Simpsons flatters Mr. Burns, often at the expense of his own dignity. George Costanza in Seinfeld tries to curry favor in various absurd ways from his boss, Mr. Kruger, and other authority figures. Dwight Schrute in The Office is super loyal to his manager, Michael Scott, going to great lengths to please him and gain his approval. Tom Haverford in Parks and Recreation frequently acts sycophantically towards his boss, Ron Swanson, and other higher-ups, looking for ways to advance his own interests. There are many kinds of sycophancy. I'm focusing here on economic and political sycophancy, that kind of flattery, bootlicking, sucking up that maintains the status quo of capitalism. Sycophancy is amplified by the Trinity of capitalism. For the sake of simplicity, I have defined capitalism as the strong bond between property, power, and capital, which I call the Trinity of capitalism. Property as what can be possessed, used, and discarded. Power as the ability to influence and tell others what to do. Capital as everything that is used to create products and services, whether they are needed or not, for the well-being of humans. Capitalism is not defined by markets and free enterprise. Markets have existed before capitalism, and one can argue settler colonialism was quite a free enterprise that operated with the blessing of the state. To a large extent, capitalism exists in China today, a country run by a communist party. When it comes to the economy, the Trinity was used even in the Soviet Union, where the state was the de facto holder of all three elements. The most visible presence of sycophants happens in the middle of hierarchies. Let's take the hypothetical electric car company Microsoft. The shareholders, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, and others, are the owners of the company. They have the power to select the board of directors, which then selects the executives. The rest of the pyramid of employees trickles in a top-down fashion. Because the Trinity does not distribute power on the principle of one human equals one vote, but rather on the principle of one share equals one vote, it creates this pyramid-like construction of power. If you are a middle manager at Microsoft, you have to ingratiate yourself upwards for a higher salary and a higher title. You have to convince, pretend, suck up, fake it until you make it to climb the pyramid. This is how the professional managerial class or the coordinator class, which is not limited to team leads, mini managers, mini directors, AVPs, VPs, are created by the existence of the Trinity. The proportionality of the size of the property with the size of power is the direct cause for sycophancy in capitalist corporations. Sycophancy is a symptom, not a cause of cognitive dissonance. When you feel that you must not contradict your boss because that affects your job security, even though you disagree with them, that is called cognitive dissonance. When you feel that you have to work overtime because everybody does it, or the company demands it, or a boss is asking for a favor, but you also feel that you would rather be with your family, or just live your life a little. That is called cognitive dissonance. When you dislike your job because it's bullshit, nonsense, uninteresting, a waste of time, dehumanizing, stupid, unhealthy, but you still do it because you need the money, that is called cognitive dissonance. This mental discomfort and disturbance, these conflicting thoughts and feelings create behaviors of servility, dishonesty, pretense. They may appear to look like a survival mechanism, as something that needs to be done to survive, to find a place of comfort in society, or to achieve some ulterior motive that is often deeply self-interested. These contradictions in your mind are causing the behavior, and the contradictions themselves are caused by the weird power imbalance in capitalism. Many sycophants at workplaces do not have much choice to behave otherwise. I don't mean personal choice, since there's significant evidence that free will is an illusion. I mean social choice, social freedom, or in other words, social agency, which is the opportunity that society gives you to behave against the Trinity of capitalism, harking back to those who have power over you, accessing quality education and healthcare, regardless of your status, race, ethnicity, income, wealth, language, being allowed and supported by society to achieve your full potential. When social agency is reduced or completely absent, we will see more sycophants jumping to grab their slice of the cake, fighting hard to overcome their mental and moral internal struggles. Lack of social agency makes you fight with yourself, makes you become something you don't like, makes you do things you regret. Sycophancy correlates with concentration of power. Philosopher Jason Stanley writes, "In fascist ideology, the goal of general education in the schools and universities is to instill pride in the mythic past. Fascist education extols academic disciplines that reinforce hierarchical norms and national tradition. For the fascists, schools and universities are there to indoctrinate national or racial pride, conveying the glorious achievements of the dominant race." Okay, so power can concentrate at the top in fascism because of its fascination with hierarchies. So then, how do we explain the totalitarian communist regimes of the past and present? Were they not supposed to be about power shared by the people in common? Concentration of power happens under any regime that operates according to the trinity of property, power, capital. As long as you link these three elements in proportion and not according to democratic representation of one voice for one person, you will get concentration of power in politics and in the economy. You will get fascist sycophants and communist sycophants. Since I lived under a communist regime, I saw firsthand how communist ass-kissing was not much different than the workplace bootlicking we have today in capitalism. The brilliant satirical film The Death of Stalin shows Foreign Minister Molotov, NKVD head Beria, Marshal Zhukov, Deputy Chairman Malenkov, and the head of the Communist Party in Moscow, Nikita Khrushchev, and others, behaving like overzealous sycophants to Stalin, and to each other depending on occasion. The desire for power is obvious. The style is raw, but not less sophisticated than the way in which corporate bootlickers work to build networks of recommendations and favors to get jobs and climb the social ladder. The higher you climb in the economic and political hierarchy, sycophancy becomes more and more psychopathic, ruthless, agitated, calculated. Sycophancy is about hidden motives and fluidity between politics and economics. Kevin Simler and Robin Hanson write in The Elephant in the Brain, Hidden Motives in Everyday Life, "People are judging us all the time. They want to know whether we'll make good friends, allies, lovers, or leaders. And one of the important things they are judging is our motives. Because others are judging us, we are eager to look good, so we emphasize our pretty motives and downplay our ugly ones. This applies not just to our words, but also to our thoughts. Why can't we be honest with ourselves? The answer is that our thoughts aren't as private as we imagine. In many ways, conscious thought is a rehearsal of what we are ready to say to others. In some areas of life, especially polarized ones like politics, we are quick to point out when others' motives are more selfish than they claim. Hidden motives are dynamic. They can change fast. You may want to get into politics to become wealthier, known as the revolving door phenomenon, or you want to get wealthy to be able to control politics, the Koch brothers being the perfect example among many others. Sycophants are never honest about their intentions, and they cannot be honest. Their true intentions are almost all the time against established norms of fair play, empathy, altruism, courage, friendship. If they had to disclose their intentions, beginning with disclosing to themselves, they would come across as despicable, narcissistic, ridiculous, weird, and outright evil. Perhaps this is why most sycophants are not honest with themselves. They avoid introspection and hard moral questions. They do not doubt their behavior, even if it comes from cognitive dissonance. They deflect, distract themselves and others as far away as possible from their hidden motives. Sycophancy varies among cultures, but has similar effects. There's no secret that the Japanese work culture seems to worship hierarchy and dislike inefficiency and waste. At the same time, only 5% of Japanese workers in 2022 were enthusiastic about their workplace, compared with the global average of 23%. The Japanese culture of lifetime employment, shushin koyo, strong devotion to the company, working long hours, appears to come from the 1920s, where Japan began to compete internationally. This karoshi, or death by overwork culture, where unwavering commitment to management is still expected today in Japan, pivots on the importance of group harmony and dedication to the collective. The end goals are the same as in a Western company: the preservation of the hierarchy and the endurance of profitability. Japanese Marxist author Kohei Saito writes in Slow Down, the Degrowth Manifesto. In Japan, so-called buraku kigyo, literally black companies, chewing through young workers by subjecting them to inhumane conditions, has become a serious social problem. Okay, so then why keep bowing to the bosses? What is the line between sucking up and showing genuine respect? Of course, all hierarchies have their sycophants. They may come across as very polite, respectful, obedient, hard workers. They may even have pure hidden motives, such as advancing in career based on honest work, based on merit, by following rules, by never cheating. All this is unlikely to happen simply because all capitalist hierarchies suffer from the same sickness, the trinity of property, power, capital. In all hierarchies, Eastern and Western, collectivist or individualist, there will be a day when honest workers who never talked back to their bosses will be faced with a difficult decision: to follow the path of morally corrupt sycophancy or fall behind for the rest of their lives. Sycophancy lies on a spectrum. Tom Wambsgans in Succession is a sycophant even in his most private moments. He sucks up even to his wife to keep his position in the family of the oligarch father-in-law. He never misses a moment to hide his mistakes, flaws, incompetence, and play the cringe game of belonging. When cousin Greg enters the family as a beginner sycophant, Tom talks down to Greg, while at the same time he teaches Greg the rules of sucking up. In real life, outside the sick world of the elites, smaller Toms and Gregs are capable of turning off sycophancy when they leave the office. They may be going home to their wives, husbands, partners, children, cute pets, and be lovely people. They may be going to a bar and drink with their friends. They may be taking addictive substances because they cannot cope anymore with playing the game. Or they may be completely unaffected by having to play double or triple lives. Is it then a surprise that mental illness is such a problem these days? Some individual sycophants can actually disrupt the logic of meritocracy. This is an aberration of sycophancy. Lying is rewarded. Truth-telling is punished. Pretending to belong is the ultimate virtue. Regardless of where sycophancy lies on a spectrum of self-awareness, moral numbness, or psychopathy, there are no redeeming qualities or virtues that a human can have to be excused for being a sycophant. How can we fight economic, and political sycophancy. At the level of society, the following are the bare minimum requirements to phase out sycophancy. Get money out of politics. It should be illegal for any private money to fund any politician or party. Reform electoral democracy. Consider abolishing elections and phasing in legislature by lot, also known as sortition. Phase in economic democracy. The fastest way to dismantle corporate hierarchies is to give voice and power to all workers. Employees should be able to decide democratically who gets to be a manager and how the company should be run. Replace the profit motive with the well-being motive. Since the profit motive means infinite growth on a finite planet, it must be terminated. The economy should serve the well-being of humans. Phase out the Trinity by dismantling each link between property, power, capital, and growth. On a smaller scale, good people who have some social agency can also help by doing the following. Small business owners can convert their companies to worker co-ops, where ownership and power are equally distributed. Young professionals can refuse to seek careers in capitalist corporations with heavy hierarchies. Employees can organize to unionize, to get a voice and be able to talk back to their employers. Anyone with a minimum of social agency can reject the pressure to obey the rules of capitalism and choose instead empathy, modesty, simplicity, altruism, selflessness. Educate yourself about how the trinity of property, power, capital affects your life directly. We can and we should phase out sycophancy in politics and economics for our own good. If you can, please support me through the links below to cover the costs of these videos. Future videos will not be possible without your support. I will never speak to advertisers and never take their money. Check out also my Substack for the written versions of these video essays. Until next time, be well, increase the peace. And since you made it this far, here's a clip from the film Yes Man.
Every 2 months, the typical loan officer approves 35 to 40 loans. You have given out 561.
So a little more than average then.
What's even more unusual are the amounts. A $250 loan for a mountain bike, $600 for windsurfing lessons.
You ever tried that? It's fun.
Carl, this bank traditionally has never given out small loans.
If I can explain ways.
Sit down, Norman.
Yeah, sit down.
You know, at first I thought you might be raiding our coffers.
I would never do that.
I would if I could, so why wouldn't you?